Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the week 5 of course Automation in Manufacturing. Well, in previous weeks we have seen the fundamentals of automation in manufacturing. We have seen how to design a system, how to manufacture a system. Now in this week we will be studying the various concepts associated with the microprocessor technology and signal conditioning. In the previous week we have seen the elements of measurement system. Sensors are the basic element of a measurement system. Sensors are giving us the input signals, but whether the input signals are usable, can we use them for our intended application, that is the microprocessing. So for that purpose we need to carry out certain operations and then we have to take decision based on that information. So the terms technology and various aspects associated with signal conditioning and microprocessing technology will be learned in this week. So let us start the lecture 1, that is signal conditioning, amplification and filtering. At the start of the lecture we will be studying the meaning of signal conditioning. The raw signals which are coming from the sensors may be non-linear, their level may be low, they may have noise, and these signals cannot be used for our operation. So for that purpose we need to carry out certain operations that we will be studying at the start of the lecture. The importance or the need of signal conditioning will be studied. Various operations under the umbrella of signal conditioning will be learnt. Then we will start the first and important operation of signal conditioning, that is amplification, signal amplification. Operational amplifiers are widely used to carry out this operation that we will learn in detail. We will be studying only one configuration of operational amplifier. After studying the operational amplifier, we will see why the filtering is to be carried out, what are the various operations for the filtering. Well, let us begin the lecture 1. In our previous class, we have seen various building blocks of microprocessor based mechatronics system. The basic element is the mechanical system itself, then the measurement system which is measuring the field variables, which is checking the status of the mechanical system, and that status will be sent to the microprocessor. Microprocessor analyze the status of the mechanical system, and as per the program written in this system, it will take action whether to actuate the system or to change its parameters. Accordingly, the signals will be sent to the actuators and then the system will be in operation or will be in control. Well, in previous lecture, we have seen various types of sensors. The second constituting element of measurement system is signal conditioning devices. So in this lecture, we will be studying about the signal conditioning devices. The main objective to condition the signal is to make the input data from the signals into an appropriate and useful form, which can be processed by the microprocessor easily. If you look at the signals which are coming from the sensors, some of the signals may be of too small magnitude. Let us consider the example of a thermocouple. The thermocouple output may be in millivolt or microvolt, which may not be sufficient to process in the microprocessor. Or if you take example of biosensors which are working on electrochemical analysis, the chemical analysis is generating the electrical signal, but the magnitude of the electrical signal may be in microvolt. That is not sufficient for the microprocessor. So for that purpose, we have to amplify the signals. The next aspect in signal conditioning may be the interference. At ground or in real life conditions, there may be unwanted signals or there may be unwanted factors which are affecting the signals coming out from the sensors. These undesired factors may be the radio waves or the sound waves or electromagnetic waves which are there in the environment. These are interfering, these are influencing the raw data which is coming from the sensors. The effect of these parameters is not in a controllable format. So for that purpose, we have to rectify the interference generated by these signals. The third aspect is nonlinearity. The signals which are coming from the sensors are expected to be linear, but they are non-linear. So we have to rectify, we have to linearize them. The sensors are giving us the input in analog format. So we have to convert that analog form into the digital form, which can be well understood by the microprocessor. So for that purpose, we have to have the signal conditioning that we call analog to digital converters. Then we have seen some of the sensors are giving the passive signals, the resistance change, inductance change or capacitance change, that we have to convert into the active signal, that is the voltage change or the current change. To process the data which is coming from the sensor and make them into usable format is called as the signal conditioning. Thus, we can say that the signal conditioning has four basic functions. First is the protection function. The signal conditioning device should protect the microprocessor from undesired level of the signal. So we have to have the right type of signal with right level of magnitude without the noise or the interference. So protection from harmful level of signals, harmful types of signals, and elimination of the interference or the noise. Well, let us study the first signal conditioning device, that is operational amplifier. Operational amplifier is considered as a basic building block of many signal conditioning devices. As the name suggests, it amplifies the input signal. Op-amp is nothing but a system which has certain input and certain output. That input to the op-amp system is voltage and the output is also the voltage. But the difference is that the input is at very low level while the output is at a multiple times. It is at a very high level. It is desired that the output of the op-amp should be of very high order, say 1 lakh. So that increase in the amplitude of the input voltage, it's called as the gain. How much gain the amplifier is providing in the amplification. A high gain DC amplifier is called as the op-amp. A typical arrangement of the op-amp can be represented by using a triangle which is shown on your screen. So we are representing the op-amp with a triangle. It has two input terminals. The negative terminal is called as inverting input and the positive terminal is the non-inverting input. The operational amplifier has the output terminal and the magnitude of the output terminal is dependent upon value and nature of the input terminals. In addition to these three terminals, it has also two more terminals. These are the positive power supply and the negative power supply. Now we can say the voltage at the output is directly proportional to the voltage at input, and the constant of proportionality is the gain G. And as I mentioned, high gain, that means around 1 lakh, the gain is very high. So the gain we can define as the ratio of voltage output to the input voltage. But how to get this high gain? There are various types of configurations are available. These are inverting amplifier, non-inverting configuration of amplification, summing nature of amplifier, and then integration used in amplification. Some amplifiers, they are based upon the differentiation that we call the differentiating amplifier. In this course, we will be studying the inverting amplifier. The rest of the amplifiers, you can refer the standard textbooks. Fine. Let us study how the inverting configuration of operation amplifier works. The schematic of a typical inverting configuration of amplifier is shown on your screen. In this configuration, we are taking the operational amplifier. As we have seen that it has two input terminals and there is one output terminal. The inverting terminal at the input is taking the input through resistance Rin, while the non-inverting terminal is connected to the ground. The output we are drawing at the Vout. The circuit also taking feedback from the output through a reference resistor RF. So here you can see the feedback is being taken from the output at the input through a resistance RF. So as per the definition of the gain is defined as the ratio of voltage output to the voltage input. Now if we try to study the inverting configuration, then we have to first consider the op-amp as an ideal amplifier. So in general, the ideal amplifier has infinite gain. It has enormous gain. So when we will have the infinite gain, so to have the infinite gain, there should be infinite input impedance and zero output impedance. So there will be more resistance of, or there would be infinite resistance of current flow at the input, and there is zero resistance of current flow at the output. So to understand this, let us consider one example. Let us consider we want to have a gain of 1 lakh or more. The output terminal is about plus or minus 10 volt. With this gain and with this voltage output, the input voltage will be coming very low. Before that, let us understand what is the meaning of impedance. The input impedance can be defined as the ratio of input voltage to the input current, and the output impedance can be defined as the ratio of output voltage to the output current. So as I mentioned, when we want to have a voltage output of around plus or minus 10 volt with a gain of 1 lakh, the input voltage will come around plus or minus 0.0001 volt. which is virtually zero, which is very small value. Therefore, we can say that the point A, which is at the inverting terminal, is at virtually earth potential. It is having virtually earth potential. It is a virtually earth point. Thus, the potential difference across Rin. Now, if you try to find out the potential difference across the resistor Rin, then that would be V in the voltage at the input terminal minus the voltage at point A. As the input voltage is coming very low, that's why we can say that the point A is at virtually earth potential. Point A is virtual earth point. Now, the potential difference across Rin can be written as the input voltage minus the voltage at the point A. Now, as we have considered the inverting configuration of op-amp as an ideal op-amp, and when we are and when we are saying that the voltage at point A is 0, then the input potential V in across the resistor Rin can be written as V in is equal to I1, that is the current which is flowing through the resistor Rin, into the resistor value of the input resistor. So I can rearrange this. I1 is equal to V input divided by resistance in the input connection. Now refer the inverting configuration once again. Operational amplifier has very high impedance at the input that we have seen in the definition of an ideal amplifier. Since the high impedance, this high impedance can be considered as infinite in case of the ideal op-amp. Since the impedance at the input is very high, we can say that there is no current is flowing through the point A. Therefore, we can say that the current which is flowing through resistance Rin must be the same as in the resistance of the reference resistor RF. The potential difference across the reference resistor can be written as the potential at A, VA minus the output potential Vout. So I can write VA minus Vout, the potential difference across RF is nothing but I1 into RF, resistance value of reference voltage RF, and the current which is flowing through this resistor. Note that I1 is the same value of the current which is flowing through Rn. However, we know that the value of voltage at point A is approximately 0. Therefore, we can write as minus Vout is equal to I1 into RF, as VA is equal to 0. I can rewrite this equation as Vout is equal to minus I1 into RF, but we know that I1 is equal to V in divided by R in. So that we have seen in the previous slide. I1 is equal to voltage at the input register divided by the resistance value of the input register. So V out is equal to minus V in into RF divided by R in. Thus I can write the ratio of V out to V in is equal to minus reference register value RF and input register value Rin. So you know that the ratio of voltage output to voltage input is nothing but the gain of the operational amplifier. The gain of the operational amplifier in this case is dependent upon the relative values of the register values of reference register and the register value of the input register. So by modulating these two registers, we can achieve the required gain. So let us consider a simple example. If the feedback resistance is about 10 mega ohm, the feedback resistor value is 10 mega ohm and the input resistance is 1 mega ohm. The input resistance is 1 mega ohm. Then we can say that the op amp is providing us a gain of 10. So G is equal to 10 divided by 1, that is 10. Now the question comes, what is the significance of this negative sign? So the negative sign indicates that the output is inverted. What I'm saying, the output is inverted, meaning is that it is 180 degrees out of phase with respect to the input. The output is inverted, it is 180 degrees out of phase with the input voltage. That's why the negative sign comes over here. So this is very simple configuration of op amp. As I mentioned, by changing the resistor values, you can easily get the required gain and you can utilize the operational amplifier for your intended purpose. My friends, there are many other configurations, many other advanced configurations are available in operational amplifier. However, the detailed study of these amplifiers is out of scope of this course. So you may go through the standard text related to the basic electronics which are available. Well, filtering is an important operation being used in signal conditioning. There is noise present at shop floor. There is interference may occur due to variety of undesired signals, undesired radio waves, electromagnetic waves. Moreover, the noise may occur due to improper hardware connections and environmental related factors such as temperature, humidity, dirt, vibrations. The noise certainly is affecting the final output of the system. The noise will manipulate and we may have an erroneous output result. We may have wrong output result. Therefore, it is very much essential for us to remove certain band of frequencies from a signal. And we may require to permit a specific band of signals that to be processed for our intended purpose. Thus, the process of removing a certain portion of frequencies, certain band of frequencies from the signals that we are getting and permitting others to be transmitted, it's called as the filtering operation. There are various terms associated with the filtering operation. The first term is pass band. The definition of the pass band is as It is the range of frequencies passed by a filter. The range of frequencies that will be passed through, that will be passed by, is called as the pass band. Second one is stop band. The range of the frequencies that will not be allowed to pass through the device, it is called as the stop band. Third one is cutoff frequency. The frequency between the stopping point and the passing point is called as the cutoff frequency. Well, we can develop the filters by using the resistors and capacitors. So when we use the resistors and capacitors only to develop the filters, that type of filters are called as the passive filters because there is no gain in the input voltage. So simply we are cutting off the undesired band of frequency that to be passed to the microprocessor. But certain filters, they increase the magnitude of the input value, they increase the level of the input value, and for that purpose we have to use operational amplifier. They are amplifying the signals and simultaneously they are allowing a selected range of signals that to be passed through. So such type of filters are called as the active filters. Now let us study the first type of filter, that is the low pass filter. As the name suggests, low pass means the filter will allow the low level of frequencies. So on your screen you can see a graph. Along the x-axis there is a frequency, along y-axis there is signal that is to be transmitted. For lower value of frequency, whatever the signals will be there, that signals will only are to be passed. So for that purpose, whatever the filter is needed, that is called as the low pass filter. So here the low is with respect to the frequency of the signals. To have such a facility, we are using resistor, resistor and capacitor connected in series. The input voltage is applied at the resistor and capacitor in series. However, the output is taken out from the capacitor only. So these type of filters allow only low frequency content and they will reject the high frequency content. How? That we will see. So if we apply the Ohm's law to this circuitry, that is a series RC circuit, then we can write the voltage at the output, that is voltage output is equal to 1 divided by j omega c divided by R plus 1 divided by j omega c into voltage input. Here the j is the imaginary unit, omega is sinusoidal angular frequency of the signals that we are getting. C is the capacitance, R is the resistance of the resistor. This equation I can simplify. I will rewrite this equation as V out is equal to 1 divided by 1 plus j omega CR into V in. Now this is an interesting correlation that we got, and this will help us to allow the low frequency signals that to be passed. How? That we will see. If the frequency of input signal is low, if the frequency of input signal is low, that means the value of omega would be low. It would be definite, but it would be a very low value. J is the imaginary constant, C is a capacitance, that is also constant, R resistance, that is also constant. So for lower value of omega, the product of j omega CR would also be low. So if I put this low value of the product of j omega CR in this equation, then I will get the value of this ratio, or I will get the value of this term near to 1. It will not be exactly 1, but it may be near to 1. So therefore I will be getting certain output at the output terminal. But consider the case when the frequencies are very high. The j omega CR, that omega value is too high, it is in thousands. If the angular velocity is too high, so this product will also be too high, then naturally we will get this ratio nearly equal to 0. When it is nearly equal to 0, then at the output we are not getting any result, we are not getting any signal. So whatever the input signals we are applying, that will be absorbed in resistance and capacitance circuitry. So in this way, the low pass filter is allowing only the low frequency data that to be passed through it. The breakpoint frequency omega is considered as 1 divided by R into C. But consider in certain cases we want to allow the high frequency content that to be filtered in. The other frequencies or the low frequency content is to be filtered out. We don't want that low frequency content. So to carry out this task, again we are using resistor and capacitance circuitry, but the positions are changed, the positions are interchanged in comparison with the low pass filter. So here we are using capacitance and resistance in series, but the output is taking out at the resistance. The input is applied at the series of the capacitance and resistance. So if you apply Ohm's law to this circuitry, we can get the correlation as the voltage output is equal to R divided by R plus 1 divided by j omega C V in. If we simplify this equation, then we will get voltage output is equal to j omega CR divided by 1 plus j omega CR into the input voltage. Again we apply the same concept here to find out what would be the effect of the value of the angular frequency. If the angular frequency is low, if the low frequency content is applied, then what happens? Since that omega is low, then certainly this ratio would be very high. As this term is very high, then naturally we are getting nearly equal to 0 content at the output. We will be getting 0 output. So that means for low frequency content, we are not getting any output. That frequency has been filtered out, it is not being transmitted. If the frequency is of high level, high content, then what is happening? The omega would be very high, so this ratio would be 0, it would be very low, near to 0. As this ratio is near to 0, then this term we are getting nearly equal to 1. R divided by R plus a term near to 0. So here we are getting it is equal to 1. It is nearly equal to 1, not exact 1. So in this way, if high frequency content is passed through these filters, we are getting significant output at the output terminal. Well, that output can further be enhanced, its magnitude can be enhanced by using operational amplifier. Now we may have a wider range of mixed signals, that may be the case. And in this scenario, we have to pass a limited frequency, a band of frequency through the circuitry. We want to utilize a band of frequency for our intended purpose, that is a microprocessor based operation. So we don't want the low frequency content, we don't want the high frequency content. So such type of filtering, it's called as the band pass filtering. Customized bands are defined, and for that band only we are getting the output. So how it is possible to design such a filter? We have to use the properties of low pass and high pass circuits, and we have to combine them together in series. So if we connect the low pass and high pass filters in series, we can easily generate a filter circuitry that will allow a defined band of frequency that to be passed through the circuitry. Then in certain cases, we have to reject a certain band of frequency from the processing operation. So we have to allow the frequency other than this band. So the lower band frequency content is allowed, the high frequency content is allowed, but the content in between the end of the low frequency band and start of the high frequency band, that content, that intermediate content, it's to be filtered out, it's to be rejected. So for this purpose, we have to connect the low pass and high pass filters in parallel configuration. So these band reject filters are also called as band stop filters or notch filters. Well, my friends, we have studied various signal conditioning operations in this lecture. So let us summarize the contents that we have seen in this lecture. We learned the definition of signal conditioning at the start of the lecture. We have seen the importance of signal conditioning in development of automated systems. After that, we have studied various signal conditioning operations which are required to be carried out on signals to make them useful for the designing operation, for decision making operation. Then we have seen the operational amplifier, the principle of operation of operational amplifier, its configuration and the working. At last, we have seen the filtering operation, the principle of working of filtration and various types of filtration operations which are in general used in the automation industry. In lecture 2 of week 5, we will be continuing our discussion on signal conditioning processes. In this lecture, we will study the pulse modulation. Pulse modulation is required to solve the problem of drift. So when we are getting low level DC signals in a continuous format, there may be formation of drift. To minimize or to remove the drift error, we have to modulate or we have to chop the signals. So what are the various techniques associated with that we will see. The signals which are coming from sensors or the signals which are coming from various electrical or the energy resources, that signals may be having very high energy level. They may not be safe, the signals may not be safe to process, their levels may be high. Say the current level may be high or the voltage level may be high, or they may have the wrong polarity. So, to protect our devices, to protect the valuable instrumentation against this kind of risk, we have to utilize or we have to employ certain devices. These are called as the protection devices. So, Zener diode and opto isolators will be studied. The third aspect is the Wheatstone bridge. So, one important application of Wheatstone bridge already we have seen in our previous lectures, that is in the strain gauge. As we know that strain gauges are giving us the signal in the change in resistance. So, we have to convert that change in resistance into the usable format, that is a change in voltage or the voltage signal. So, to convert a sensor into a transducer, we need an electrical circuitry, and that is nothing but the Wheatstone bridge.